You are listening to the Battle Ready podcast. My name is Aaron McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin Raphael McManus. It's so good to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here. Honestly, I've been feeling a little lackluster about the podcast. I haven't been feeling like I've been bringing my best to it. This week, I'm mentally prepared. I'm spiritually prepared. I'm calm. I'm in my centered zone.
Well, for all of you who are faithful listeners, thank you so much for hanging in there with us.
Thank you. So it's hard when you take a summer off and then you get back in it and then you're like, okay,
you're still off.
How do I do this?
But here we go. And there's so many good things to talk about.
There's so many good things.
I think a part of what we're having to adjust to is that you're trying to be more positive,
and it's not working.
But you're funnier, and you're more interesting, and you're wittier when you go to the dark side.
I don't like this about myself.
Tricky.
Okay, so maybe that's the perfect description for what we're about to release.
Okay.
We're launching a new Patreon.
Yes.
A Patreon.
Yeah,
not a new one, just a Patreon.
Patreon. First time we're asking people to really...
No, it's called Patreon.
Patreon.
It's like a play on Patreon.
Right. We're saying, it's the first time we're really basically providing a paid for version of Battle Ready.
We get hit up all of the time
by
you guys asking us if there's a way you guys can contribute. We released merch. That's one way of contributing, but I think we're going to close merch down. We released it for the last 2 months, closing that season down, and we're launching Patreon. And there's going to be 4 different categories. Right now, I've been building the back end over the weekend. There's a $5 option, which is I like you. There's a $10 option, which is I love you. There's a $15 or $20 option, which is a die-hard Battle Ready. And then there's a $20 option or a $40 option that is bury me in Battle Ready.
All right, so you only...
It's just what I came up with in the moment. I was going to run it by you, bro.
The only one I'm not really feeling is the I love you for $10.
Well, I know.
You don't love me for $10. Well, I love you $10 worth.
This is what. This
do
is
a
what.
poll.
I think it should be called I love you $10 worth.
I love you for 10.
Or call it DM me.
DM me. So there's different perks, and we're kind of expanding on the perks. But $5 is basically you're just kind of saying I like you, thank you, buying us. It's like if you could take us to coffee, this is how you'd do it. $10 is I love you, and it's early access to the podcast, 24 hours earlier, behind the scenes content. We're gonna add to these things. This is kind of initially what separates it.
Right.
Diehards, early access to the podcast, live Q&As once a month, behind the scenes content. So I think it's a Zoom call where we do a live Q&A and we record it and release it as an episode as well at some point. $40 a month is all of the things, plus you can name my firstborn child. I'm just kidding. I'm not entirely sure what else you can do. Why
don't we just create some special merch and only the $40 people can buy them?
Ooh.
VIP club.
VIP club.
Ooh.
Or they can vote on the merch.
Yeah.
It'll be VIB.
Very important battles?
Very important battles. I don't know. But I also thought of a cool acronym.
We should create some merch that says bury me in Battle Ready.
Bury me in Battle Ready.
That's hilarious.
That's funny.
And
I'm funny.
What I thought you are funny.
I just need time. I need time to stew. You're right. This is a better version. So what I think...
What I thought we should do is, all right, so we're going to call it light side and dark side.
That's what I was just going to say. How did you read
A side
my
and B
mind?
side of the Beatles. And light side is free.
And the dark side,
you got to pay for the dark side.
So maybe what you get on the Patreon side is you get the behind the scenes content, and then you're gonna get the dark side.
Yeah, and also I think there's topics that I am interested in. I am actually very interested in politics. I am very interested in cultural, complexities of the right and the left, and where we are going as a society, and maybe that's something we can bring in the upper level conversation for people who actually want that. Some people don't want it. Some people don't want us talking about politics. They don't want to talk about those kinds of larger political, cultural issues. But if you do, maybe that's a good place to go for Patreon.
Patreon. It's like French.
Say it deeper. Patreon.
I don't think so. I think it's probably Greek.
Patreon.
Patron.
No,
Patron?
Patron? That's tequila, and that's not on this episode of Pat Already
Okay,
podcast.
that's the $80 version.
That's the $80 version?
I don't remember what happened last night.
You don't even drink.
But I know I need to pay for it.
My favorite thing is like when people bring him alcohol to his house for like gifts, and he just has like a random closet where he's just like, I've got to figure out what to do with these things. But he had this bottle of like Casa Azul, and I don't even think you knew what it was. It was just this beautiful bottle, and I was like,
what is it?
It's like a very, very expensive bottle of tequila.
And someone stole it from my back house.
Someone stole it?
Yeah,
What?
you.
I didn't steal it. No, I never took it. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
No, I never took it.
You're the only one.
No,
who
the
knew
big
where it
big
was.
one.
Yeah.
No, I never took it.
Someone took that, but I have another one.
I
hidden
think
away.
I think probably Kimmy threw it away because
Well,
she doesn't
people
like
just
those
bring
things.
me such beautiful gifts. In fact, for my birthday, these friends of mine said, "Oh, we forgot your gift," and I said, "Oh, it's okay." And they said, "Yeah, it's an entire case of these rare wines."
I know. I did take those.
No, they didn't. They didn't bring the case of rare wines.
They didn't?
No, and I literally thought to myself, I need to start drinking.
No, you don't.
It's never too late to start.
So many of my friends bring me such extraordinary, exquisite gifts, and I am so grateful for them.
But you don't drink it. I think it's a I think it's a beautiful characteristic of you. You don't, and you don't really have the taste for it, and you don't really enjoy it.
It's not my thing.
It's not your thing, and I love that it's not your thing. I think it needs to be less of our things. Okay, so I was driving here. I was getting us some coffees. Was driving back from Blue Bottle with Austin, and I was looking at Instagram, and Emerson was posting what was going on in Mexico City.
Emerson is our pastor in Mexico City for Mosaic.
Yes, one of my best friends, wonderful human, but he was driving to go pick up his son from school because I guess when that happens, it was a 7.5 off the coast. The coast is only a few hours away.
Pacific Coast, yeah.
Pacific Coast, and even though they're landlocked, I think Mexico City is built on like a waterbed, like on an old lake.
On a lake, yeah.
And so it shifts and it shakes pretty heavily when there's earthquakes.
Yeah, it's not on solid ground.
No. And so, 7.5. But I think, is it not the same date, same hour as the last earthquake, that was the big one that was there last year?
So he sent me a text, and this is to me kind of like Twilight Zone-ish. He said, earthquake, same date, same hour, 3 years in a row. Scientists are trying to see what is behind this phenomenon. And for some of you who remember Rod Sterling, this feels like a Rod Sterling kind of Twilight Zone moment of going, how is it possible that there's an earthquake on the same date at the same hour for 3 years in a row?
That's pretty crazy. I don't understand. That's a phenomenon.
Because it tells you that something has been happening underneath the surface for 364 days. And that there's some kind of revolution or cyclical pattern happening in the earth that resets
and
every year.
It is interesting.
Yeah. Which is unnerving.
I have nothing scientific to say about that.
Yeah, I would love for scientists to give us feedback on this.
Yes.
And send us some comments if you actually know this field. And he did say that his heart was racing and that they were all safe. But one of your friends sent you a video of the building shaking.
Yeah, they work on, I guess, the equivalent of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And they're a broker, and they were showing me like the inside of the building shaking.
Is that sort of in Polanco or?
I think it's in Polanco
or
Reforma. Yeah, and then or maybe in Santa Fe.
Okay.
And then they were outside, and all the buildings were shaking. The phone was shaking, and it was pretty heavy.
And a few years ago, when the earthquake hit and destroyed Condesa.
Yeah.
And so many of the beautiful buildings were lost. And
remember the first time we were walking in Mexico City, or the first time I was with you, I mean, down one of the most beautiful areas of the city where so many artists live. They were like townhouses toppled over, apartment buildings toppled over, and not huge ones, like 4 or 5 stories, just on the main parkway, just in the main park, just fallen over, and leaning into the next building. And it was so bizarre because there'd be people living in one with lights on in every floor, and the next one completely empty and condemned.
Yeah, and without. So
we're praying for our friends in Mexico City.
Absolutely,
we're praying that they stay safe. And this is the last one.
Just the imagery that comes to mind is even when Paul writes about how all creation is groaning for its redemption, and when you realize that the earth is both this stationary sphere in the middle of space that provides this life and yet is in constant change and flux, and with earthquakes and tornadoes and tsunamis and it. Wow. If you need stability in your life, if you need a sense of security, don't even think about the context in which we live, that we're living on this hanging sphere in the middle of space, and the earth is shaking, and it's boiling from the center, and it's a miracle that we're alive. It's a miracle that there's human life and that there's life on this planet.
Okay. Yeah.
I know you look a little terrified when I said that.
I don't like that. It feels like it, and I don't like it.
I'm just saying.
Did I tell you?
It's just a great reminder to me of how one fragile life is, and what an incredible miracle it is that human beings exist on this planet.
Yes. On top of that,
okay,
I decided to cook on Friday night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. I decided to.
There are people who decide to cook every day, Aaron.
I usually do like very simple things you can like put together, like salads or like pre-cook something and then make a sandwich. It's all grab and go stuff. I don't really do the like cooking a meal thing.
All right. So what you
I decided, I cooked a steak, cooked some veggies.
Okay.
It actually was amazing. It was great. My place is so small that the entire thing was filled with smoke. And I turned on what is it, like the oven? I don't have one that overhangs. I have one that's like next to the oven and it's supposed to like suck it all down. Right. That doesn't work. That's just ridiculous. That's a joke. It just turns on a fan. Yeah. And I knew what I was getting myself into. So I opened up all the windows and the doors and everything. So I'm sitting down to eat my food. I was like, oh, this tastes great. Aaron, you're great. He watched The Bear a few times, got inspired. There we go. And then I heard, it's like 9 p.m. at this point. I heard the loudest sound outside in my bushes. I have these like ficuses that connect with me and my neighbor. We live on top of each other. And I thought there was someone climbing up like the gate onto my roof. Because my roof's, I live like a little like bungalow thing. So I thought, so I have this crazy police flashlight that is like super high lumens that because I'm,
blind the criminal.
I'm gonna blind him. And I run out and I look like a crazy person. I'm like standing on, my car trying to look and see if there's someone on my roof. I had all the doors open. I was closing everything. I don't know. It was a wild night. So I haven't felt safe this weekend. So you saying all those things about miracles of us being alive, you dodged another one.
Well, man, our hearts go out to everyone in Mexico City.
Yes. Okay. I think it was a possum. I don't know. Or maybe it was my neighbor. But, obviously we want to, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone in Mexico City. Yeah. We have a huge, beautiful community, a part of Mosaic there.
And we love them. Makes us want to go down there sooner and be with you guys.
Okay.
All right. So many things going on.
Okay. So Biden says the pandemic is over.
Oh, you're jumping right there.
Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm so excited that the pandemic's over. I mean, it's great news.
Who told him? Or did he just remember?
No. All right. But there's a slight contradiction.
Okay.
Brooke, what happened?
Well, the Biden administration had extended the public health emergency for COVID through the middle of October. Now,
are we in the middle of October now?
Not quite, but
okay.
they did do that in July. They did it July 15th for 3 months. So the real question is if they're going to re-up or not.
Well, how can you re-up when the president just declared the pandemic over?
I've seen stranger things.
Well, I just read there was a Gallup poll that 1 out of every 3 Americans are afraid to go back to work to contract COVID. And so first of all, if you're one of those 1 out of 3, stop worrying. The pandemic's over. And so, so you can go back to work and not sweat it. You're fine. I did have this little cynical, slightly jaded moment where I thought, I wonder how many people are filling out the survey saying, I'm afraid to go back to work because they do not want to go back to work and are just using COVID as an excuse to not go back to work.
Well, it's interesting because COVID is the 3rd leading cause of death, according to the National Institute of Health. But
the National Institute of what?
Of Health. But the first is heart disease.
Yeah.
And we've never shut down the country for heart disease. And the second is cancer. And then the 4th is stroke, accidents. Those are the 4th and 5th. But still, it's still definitely an issue, but it's not necessarily a pandemic.
Yeah, but I think that other causes of death have dropped dramatically, like pneumonia, tuberculosis, lung diseases. Like old age is no longer a cause of death.
What do you mean?
Well, because so many people were actually elderly who are counted as deaths by COVID that would have just died because they lived their life fully.
Right.
And so when you see COVID as the third leading cause of death, I'm going, well, that's right before humans die because they get old. And the reality is that those numbers can be so manipulated that it's really distressing.
Yes.
But I did think to myself that
what a wonderful
I would be
day.
I would be more worried about getting COVID at work because of the implications of I have to quarantine or I have to like not go to work or it has all these social ramifications than the fear of something bad happening to me because I got COVID.
I wonder how many people fear COVID because of the actual reaction it would have physically.
Yeah, see, I think very few.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I you might want to fact check me on this because I'm just going to make this up, but I think that I just saw that it was Sweden that said that no one under 50 needs to be vaccinated anymore. I think it was Sweden. And
I'm coming over, Stockholm.
well, what struck me was, see, now people are actually thinking in a more rational way.
They decided in January to not recommend vaccines for kids 5 to 11.
Right, that happened earlier.
Yeah.
But somewhere right now, there was a decision that was made that no one under 50 needs to be vaccinated.
Okay.
And my whole point of this is that it's so arbitrary. President Biden says the pandemic is over. And, is there like any scientific validation? Oh, I know what it is. It's the midterms.
I think it's like when you forget the stove is on. I think he forgot he hadn't ended it. So he was like, "Oh, you know what? Let me just come right back here real quick. It's not doing anything wrong. No one's. It's not burning down the house. Let me just go back to COVID and just let me turn the light off real quick."
The director of the World Health Organization said the number of weekly reported deaths from COVID is the lowest since March 2020. The month it really started. It's the lowest since then. He said, we've never been in a better position to end the pandemic.
Huh. That's interesting.
It feels like it just needs someone to pull the trigger. Maybe it was Biden.
Yeah.
I saw that now my President Biden was at the Queen's funeral this today. Because today's Monday. We're recording this on Monday. And I also saw that he was there with his wife and they were attending the funeral. I thought it was really beautiful. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it, Brooke?
I did not.
I saw some of like the highlights. If you want to keep them, you can keep them. Great Britain. That's all I'm saying. Yes.
Well, I did think it was unusual that so many people talk about King Charles's age because he's old. He's 72, but he's 6 years younger than President Biden.
Well, I think the issue is whenever we look at King Charles, we also see Prince William right next to him. And we're like, we want option B. But there's no one standing next to President Biden at all times as his replacement.
No. Wow, Brooke, my former liberal friend.
What?
The person who stands next to President Biden is Kamala Harris.
Oh, well, we ain't seen her in weeks.
When's the last time we saw her?
Maybe years. No,
When's the last time?
This is the reality. You're supposed to have your vice president, who's this youthful, emerging leader, standing next to you. And so you're saying that you have more confidence in William leading the monarchy than you have Harris of leading the democracy of America.
I feel like I do.
Is that really what? Is that really what the VP does or signifies? Because I feel like it mostly signifies the runner-up category.
No, because Biden was selected by Obama. He became the president. And, Gerald Ford did become president when Richard Nixon was exercised from the presidency. And so, sorry,
he was impeached and removed.
And, so vice presidents are the best postured to become the next president or candidate for their party.
Of course.
That's supposed to be what you're supposed to do. And when Biden was at his already elderly age running for presidency, they supposedly picked the most qualified candidate to replace him because they knew he was incredibly vulnerable because of his age and health. So you would think the Democratic Party would be absolutely cheerleading Kamala Harris and advocating for her to lead the party and positioning her to run for the presidency in the next election.
Bernie's going to come back. That's what I'm going to say.
I don't think Bernie's going to die.
Bernie's never
soon.
dying.
Bernie's old, but he's youthful.
I didn't know that Governor.
Youthful.
This is off topic.
Okay.
This is off topic or off the record?
Topic.
Okay.
Governor Abbott from Texas. I didn't realize he's been busing migrants to outside Kamala's home after she said the border was secure. Did you guys know that?
No. I did not know that.
I basically looked up where in the world is Kamala Harris, and that's one of her most.
Is that her house trying to keep?
Oh, put up a wall.
Hold on, that's not funny. That's so bad.
That's really cold.
That's very bad.
But it does remind me of something. So it is an interesting segue. Where is that place up in? Is it Maine or Connecticut where all the rich people live? This beautiful
Martha's
island,
Vineyard?
Martha's Vineyard.
Both are where rich people live.
So Martha's Vineyard, is it in Connecticut or Maine?
Martha's Vineyard, I think it's like New Hampshire or something.
It's in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay, so I did not know, but I've been there. But I just drove through there one time.
Okay.
All right. They have been shipping immigrants or undocumented workers to Martha's Vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because they are highly liberal and they don't believe there's a border problem. So Texas has been sending them there.
He flew them there.
Oh, he flew 2 planes. That's right. 2 planes, right?
Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis flew them there. Oh, from Florida. Okay, all my facts are jumbled up, but I'm going to get there. All right, so DeSantis sent them from Florida to Martha's Vineyard, and Martha's Vineyard doesn't want them. In fact, one of their spokespeople said, we don't have a way of housing these people. We don't even have enough housing for our residents. So they put them on buses and sent them to a military base. So what's interesting to me is, you know, and this is true in everything, we all have our political ideologies until they affect our lives. And when they affect our lives, that's when we begin to discover what we actually believe and we're actually committed to.
How do you feel about those actions, Brooke?
I don't like the idea of using a person for a political stunt, especially someone who is coming into the country possibly as a refugee,
right,
or with limited resources or even knowledge of the English language, that you would put them on a bus and send them to another state to make a point.
Okay, so let me ask you, I agree with you actually, but is it a political stunt for the White House to not secure the borders and allow those people in Arizona and Texas because it doesn't affect the more liberal states? It does affect those 2 more conservative states. Is it inhumane to allow all those people to come into a state where they don't know the language, don't have jobs, and don't have the capacity to survive? Why does it become more of a political stunt and more humane when those same states send them to other states that say that they are sanctuary cities? Because that's where they were sending them, to Detroit and to Martha's Vineyard, to places that declared themselves as sanctuary cities. So if you make that declaration, is it a political stunt, or are you saying, okay, this is what you say, now let's see if you actually back up what you say?
Which, so did New York.
Yes.
And the mayor said he's floated the idea of lifting their policy to grant shelter to anyone who needs it due to the struggle that the state is facing keeping up with the amount of people arriving on buses. And for me, I think it's difficult because you're asking a very limited amount of states to be the funnel for every person that would cross into the U.S. on foot.
That's right. We're asking Texas and Arizona to handle almost all of the immigration issues.
Yes.
And then we take it seems a higher, more humane policy of saying we should have open borders, but as long as they don't come into our states. And that becomes, for me, very disingenuous because you're not dealing with the reality of that. And so New York is dealing with 1/1000th of the dilemma of Texas or Arizona. Detroit is dealing with hundreds of people. Texas dealing with tens of thousands of people. It's a dramatically different issue. And it is sort of that thing of out of sight, out of mind. As long as we're not affected by it, we don't really care about it.
I mean, Governor Abbott's office said it had sent over 8,000 migrants to DC since the spring.
That's incredible. And now find the number of migrants that have not been sent. And you're going to get the contrast. Even though 8,000 seems like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably looking at over 100,000 that Texas is dealing with in a blink of an eye.
Well, it's Border Patrol
Mhm.
said 4 days ago, according to one source, that they log roughly 8,000 migrant encounters a day.
A day.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically
In
sent
a month, it's
to
30,
Detroit
24 to 30.
1 day of their problem.
Mm-hmm.
1 day, and they're complaining, going, "This is inhumane."
Wait.
But you don't care about the other 364 days and the people who
No.
are
I did
now
the
trapped.
math. That's 250,000 people a month.
Yeah.
And that's,
And
that's not,
that's people who actually get
That's who
documented.
yeah, it's not every day. I think it's recently that's the number they've been logging. But there are 4.3 million. In 2017, 16% of the Texas population was immigrants.
Wow.
So no matter what you feel about politics, Texas is doing their fair share of reestablishing a new life for undocumented immigrants coming to America.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's wrong to use humans
Yes.
as a political statement, though all humanity is used in some form as a political statement, especially in this country. But I do understand the methodology behind it, the ideology behind it, and why he's doing it, and the purpose behind it. It always just feels a little wrong when the right does things like that, right? But I also do, it's like if you're voting for a certain thing in a certain state, you should have to deal with it. And if it actually doesn't, it feels more wrong that I guess places like Martha's Vineyard and Massachusetts can vote for this type of immigration and have no consequence.
Yes.
They should just not be able to vote for it.
Yeah, the thing is, you're right, and Brooke's right. It's 100% wrong, and what's happening that's causing it is 1,000% wrong. And I don't know if anyone's going to do anything about the wrong that's happening if it doesn't create some level of discomfort for the people who are living in cocoon spaces, making decisions for other people.
What would you say is the fix? Because there's still 8,000 people a day who need to come into the country.
No.
They don't need to.
Why do
they want
need
to
come?
No, I'm saying need as in they feel they need to come.
We agreed on something finally.
Against
Me
me.
and you against
United.
I still say the number one, the only solution, as much as Bukele is beginning hate in El Salvador because of transforming his country, the only solution is for the United States to pour an immense amount of time, energy, and resources into Central America so that Latin America can be free and flourishing. We cannot stop massive immigration if we don't help address the issues of poverty in Central America.
Do you find that it's problematic that you want us to invest and to integrate financial capital into these countries?
Yes.
Infrastructure, I'm guessing the war on drugs, which is not something that's often talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But don't you feel like it's their responsibility, the Mexican government, the Guatemalan government, the Honduran, the El Salvadorian government, to handle the war on drugs? Because that's the biggest issue, is because a lot of these amazing people who are coming across the border, who are needing to come across the border, as Brooke would say, they're escaping situations from the cartel. Their farms are being taken over.
From violence and
they're running from violence. They're running from their farms being taken over by cartels, saying you have to grow this or you were going to come back and kill you. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances that are affecting these people's lives.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's our fault, but I am saying it's our responsibility if we want to solve the problem.
I'm not saying you're saying it's our fault. I'm saying what's going to actually change if these countries don't regulate the drug lords that live inside their own countries? Because what ends up happening is we end up doing the same thing that we did in Baghdad. We come in, or the same thing we do with Chiquita Banana in Colombia, or in, Guatemala? Is it Guatemala or Honduras that Chiquita Banana was in? Guatemala, right?
No, Honduras, I think.
Because when El Salvador took over Guatemala, it was the Chiquita Banana.
It wasn't Guatemala.
It was Honduras?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the 48-hour war?
Yeah, or 24-hour war.
24-hour war?
Yeah.
For me, it's just, I think, I don't know if us putting a bunch of money into Central America makes sense. Central America needs to figure out for itself what Central America is doing.
Well, people have been waiting on that for a few hundred years. And what
do you
I'm
mean,
saying,
100 years? I don't know what you just said. The reality though is that if Central America was pumping oil,
we'd be taking care of them.
It would be central. It'd be the Central East.
Yeah, I'm just saying we're not going to solve this problem unless we help solve the problem south of the border. It may not be our responsibility, but if you're looking at it from a tactical position, or even a long-term strategic position, it benefits everyone for this continent to be economically healthy.
Would you say historically that the U.S.'s involvement or influence in Latin America has been beneficial to the Latin American people?
No, we've abused and taken advantage of Latin America.
We ransack and we raid countries.
Yeah, we've supported dictators. We've advanced the drug culture. We've sent MS-13 back to El Salvador.
Yes.
We haven't ever taken on a posture of going, we can actually be a positive force in the economic development of Latin America. It's not the United States' responsibility. I want to be clear. It's not this country's responsibility, but I think tactically, it's a smart move.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why didn't we take it over? Now it's not socially acceptable for one country to take over another country.
Sure.
As per Russia and Ukraine and the entire world supplying Ukraine against Russia, other than I guess maybe China. But when we as the United States fight all of our wars on other people's soil. So why is it that we know that whatever's going on, whether it's Mexico or Guatemala sending their immigrants from Central and South all the way up to North America, to the US, we know that it affects us, it affects our economy, it affects our livelihood, it affects, the safety of citizens and immigrants, both, right? Equally. Why isn't it that we have not done something more drastic over the last 300 years?
Well, we did.
200 years.
We did take over a lot of it. It's called California.
It's called California, yeah.
Texas. That's why we have the Alamo. Basically, our border is the part of Central America that we took over.
Right.
And a part of our immigration dilemma, especially when it comes to the Mexican people, is that they didn't migrate here illegally. They found themselves on the other side of a border,
right.
And they were Mexicans on Monday, and then Mexicans in America on Tuesday,
right?
And so you have to understand there's a little bit of history there, behind that. And I think it was in the 1950s. I could be wrong. You can look this up, Brooke. I've been wrong a lot today, but I think somewhere in the 1950s, El Salvador actually petitioned the United States to try to become an American state.
Oh, interesting. Or like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, to become a part of the United States. And I think that was one of the great eras of this nation. And because if we had embraced El Salvador and taken El Salvador on as a territory, we would have eventually had a relationship with every territory in Central America that would have been incredibly profitable. And instead of just having...
You said that's one of the great things about this nation?
No, the great oversights, one of the great tragedies.
Yeah.
And even with Panama, we built the canal, but we didn't develop the nation. We left it in poverty. And so there are a lot of things there that maybe historically we could have done differently. I'm just looking forward and going, it helps us to have a Mexico that's not corrupt and that is economically viable and politically and safe. It helps us to have an El Salvador that is both secure and economically thriving. It helps our nation because then people won't want to leave their nations and come here. And again, for all the criticism of the United States, you have to realize the whole world and recognizes that this is a place to come for opportunity and freedom.
Right.
And you just don't see people clamoring to get into Russia or China or, and they're going right through Mexico to the United States. So whatever all the problems are in this nation, whatever we face that we feel this country has let us down or has been historically not living up to its ideals, this is still, to me, the greatest nation in the world. All right.
It is.
Yeah. There's a few other things that I want us to talk about.
What else?
All right. So we, really looking at the earthquake in Mexico, looking at the pandemic being over. We want to celebrate that.
Celebrate it. Welcome to the party, President Biden.
Woo!
Yeah,
Welcome.
I'm joking. All
Hit
right.
up Resi. You can sit inside and outside.
You can be a Patron level Patreon member.
Yeah, but our nation is going to have a hard time recovering from the fear.
Patreon, Brooke. Patreon.
That's what I said.
Even as I drove here, I saw a man in a car by himself wearing a mask.
You did?
Yep.
It might have been Uber. No. Oh.
He was by himself driving his
just
car with a mask on, and I thought
Uber.
I felt so sad for him because I thought, wow, he's living in fear.
It's a mosquito.
We are infested with mosquitoes here in California. I don't know what it sounds like.
Everywhere. Crazy.
So I'm going to just bring up something that makes me excited
Okay.
and happy.
Okay.
For my birthday, you gave me a very special gift.
I did.
Ooh.
You gave me an experience, which you know I love.
Yes.
And I don't have room for more things. I have endless room for more experiences.
Yes.
And so you bought me tickets to the University of North Carolina versus Notre Dame football game in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
In Chapel
this
Hill.
Saturday.
Woo!
I am so excited.
Best place on earth.
I've not been back to Chapel Hill since I graduated to go to a game. And I used to go to every game. I lived in Avery dorm, and I would walk from my dorm almost in my pajamas right to the stadium and never missed a single game. I watched Lawrence Taylor play football. I have such great memories there. And Aaron, thank you so much for my birthday gift. I'm so excited. And then I went ahead. You know how they say that, we always say if God closes the door, he opens the window. Sometimes you just got to knock on the door or check the handle and see if it's unlocked, right? Why jump out the window if you're on the 18th story?
Right.
Why didn't no one check the door? That's funny.
I have a friend named John Gordon, and he speaks to all these university teams. So I DM'd John. I said, I'm going to the UNC Notre Dame game in 2 weeks. Aaron gave me this gift, and I would love to get to do something with the football team since I'm a Tar Heel. And so John DM'd Mac Brown, the head coach. Then Mac DM'd John, and he sent me this note saying we would love to have, or first he said we hadn't even thought that far ahead. It was like 3 weeks ago. And then I get this DM saying we'd love to have Erwin speak. So I'm going to get to go speak to the football team and the coaches at UNC Chapel Hill. It's a dream come true.
Woo!
This is a bucket list. It's a bucket list. I'm so excited to go.
It is a bucket list.
And
I'm excited to go.
Carolina's 3-0. Notre Dame just won their first game this season. The game is sold out. It's going to be on national television on ABC. And,
oh, wow.
And I'm just believing my heels are going to pull out a upset victory and beat the Fighting Irish. And I'm very excited.
They had a tough time against Appalachian State.
And now we know that they're better than people thought.
Appalachian State, because they rocked Texas A&M, right?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Okay, so I just got hit up. Can we just, a little segue? I don't usually check DMs.
Tar Heels, I'm coming. Chapel Hill.
Erwin is going to UNC Chapel Hill. Get him, Tar Heels.
All right.
Is there sayings at Chapel Hill? Is there like a saying I need to know?
I don't know, but if you live in Chapel Hill.
Die Duke?
yeah, that's true. I know.
Is there not like...
I need best coffee shops, the best restaurants for over there.
Did you ever go to football games, Brooke?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
You loved going?
I enjoyed it, yeah.
Like, even if you're not into football, it's just like, it's a thing there, right?
It's an experience.
Keenan Stadium, man.
It's massive.
So, a man named Gary. Guys, love this week's podcast, but a few corrections speaking as a British citizen. There's no such thing as England. Did we say England?
It's Great Britain.
Didn't we say the Queen of England, though? Isn't she still the Queen of England?
Well, no, go ahead. Finish this critique.
Okay, then we'll break it down. And Brooke, you can fact check us and you can correct us. But I don't like it, Gary.
Oh, goodness.
No, it's fine.
Hey, a Brit can correct us on British.
No, he's done it a few times.
Okay.
Last week he said, "I'm sorry, but I had to pause this latest episode. There are no good Latin actors." What?
Gary?
What about Oscar Isaac? We didn't say there's no good Latin actors. We were joking, saying, are there no good Latin actors?
But he's British. He doesn't understand satire.
My man. No, exactly. My response last week was, it was sarcasm. Listen again. He hearted it. Then he decided to write a Bible passage. And I responded with, I'm so sorry you live in England. Just that.
Aaron McManus.
No, it's fine.
You love England.
What?
Although there's no such thing as England.
There's no such thing, so I can't love it. If there's no such thing.
Wait a minute.
He said this. There's no such thing as England. Blah, blah, blah. England is one of the 4 home nations that constitute the UK.
Yeah.
Our country is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Okay, Gary, I don't...
1, free Northern Ireland. It ain't yours.
Aaron.
What?
Let the Northern Irish work that out.
I'm a Protestant.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
But I'm technically a Catholic.
I don't want to go to war against Gary, who's actually British.
Gary seems fine.
But it seems like, and again, please fact check me.
Yes.
It seems that England plays in the World Cup and plays in the Olympic Games, as does Scotland and Ireland and Wales.
They're all countries.
They're all countries. So when you say there's no such thing as England, Gary, I don't know what world you're living in. You can say England is a part of a larger national confederacy called the United Kingdom.
They call it a constituent, or England is a UK constituent country.
So England does exist.
Yes.
So Gary, I think you stand corrected. England does exist. You may even live there.
Gary.
And if you add Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, I think
I'm just quoting you.
You have
there is
the
such
United
a thing as
Kingdom.
England, and you might even live there.
Who has ever said, "Hey, have you been to London, UK?"
Second, Second, Elizabeth was not an authoritarian monarch. She was a constitutional monarch. It's the prime minister who actually runs the country. Did we talk about her being an authoritarian monarch?
No.
I don't recall that phrasing.
I think we think she's powerless.
Don't worry.
She's a figurehead.
She's a figurehead.
She's a figurehead.
Don't worry, Gary.
I think we said authoritarian, but just like last week with the no good Latin actors, I'm not sure you understand.
It might be a translation
or
thing.
sarcasm or English.
But I do think the monarchy began as an authoritarian. I mean, the monarchy clearly began as an authoritarian dictatorship.
But you know, he's quoting us apparently. And then the last one was she was also devout follower. She was also a devout follower of Jesus. Watch her funeral later today and ask yourself who brought more glory to God and who more effectively represented the character of Christ, Elizabeth or Trump?
Oh, well, who's
yeah,
fighting
Gary.
for Trump in this conversation?
Wow.
He held the Bible upside down.
Wow. Who's taller, me or Danny DeVito? It's like
my man is he going restricted. I like him, but he going restricted because I'm not about these fights. Here is my thing. Here's my thing.
That was fun.
That was fun. My thing is I actually I understand the monarch. What I don't understand is you gave up the power to the prime minister and the parliament, and you still exist. That I don't understand. And that for me is it feels like the end of an era that has been prolonged.
Well, I agree. I mean, George Washington had the opportunity to become a king. They wanted to make him a king, and he refused it, and he became a president.
Yeah.
And if somehow, several centuries ago, a former British citizen named George Washington could understand that the era of monarchies was over, I don't understand why the United Kingdom, Great Britain, hasn't come to that realization. I do understand, though, the symbolism. I actually think it's quite beautiful. I love that. And so I guess maybe I don't have a problem with the fact that they have a symbolic monarchy that says this is a part of our history. But is it that great of a history? You conquered other nations, you pillaged cities, you did unthinkable things to commoners, you conquered other people.
You created Australia. It's your fault.
And then you maintain that. So
rugby is your fault.
Now, I just think, the truth is we're in this era in our history right now where everyone's history is bad. Is so bad.
It's bad.
I really do celebrate Queen Elizabeth's life.
No, I think she was.
And I think she was a really beautiful follower of Christ, and that she took a very difficult task and did an extraordinary thing. And
what was hard?
Oh, I think it's incredibly hard to take the position of losing all your privacy to become a monarch, a symbol for a nation in the time of war, to try to bring hope and peace and calm to a people, to always stand in every situation with some level of grace and dignity. I don't think it's easy to be the Queen of England.
I didn't say it was easy. I'm asking. I believe that the hardest parts of the monarch are self-inflicted.
I think there's a lot of truth to that too, because they're bound by tradition rather than sometimes just by common sense.
By just being human.
Yeah.
Just even the fact that she wasn't educated properly as a child, right?
Yeah.
And I do I really do respect her for making sure she became educated.
Yeah.
For taking that on upon herself.
Yeah.
Even as a monarch. But it does feel like this is a representation thing that just needs to kind of let go. I mean, I don't know. I'm obsessed with it. I love reading about it and listening to podcasts about it, and I'm obsessed with it.
Well, it's interesting.
But I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I almost like feel like I have no opinion because I'm not a British citizen, and so you can create whatever you want for your own nation, you know. And I'm fine with that. There are other nations that still have kings or queens or royalty, and
I mean, Denmark and Belgium. And, but like, they're like they're like their versions of the Kardashians.
Yeah. It's just something that is culturally valuable to them, and I don't want to hate on it. I think it's fascinating. I think it's really interesting. I just think that, of course, the original intent for a monarchy is something that can no longer be tolerated in the world. But that's my thoughts. All right.
Okay.
Can we move on to some other things?
Let's move on to some other things.
I do have a few things. I have them on my little Battle Ready playlist.
Really?
Yeah.
What's left? We kind of hit everything.
No, I still want to talk about these two things.
Which two things?
We've been struggling with, right now, my car, my electric car.
You have an electric car, yes.
Is desperately needing to be charged. I haven't been able to charge it.
You charged it last night?
We got a little bit of charge into it, yes. And
a little bit, okay.
But 2 weeks ago, I had it plugged in to charge. It had no charge, like 20 miles.
Okay.
And then we had a brownout in our neighborhood. All the power went off in our neighborhood.
What's a brownout?
A brownout is when you lose most of the power in the neighborhood.
Oh,
a blackout's when you lose everything. Yeah.
I didn't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think brownouts are more strategic, right? They do it on purpose, and they cut your electricity by a certain percentage, and so everything went off. Our air conditioning, which did not reboot, so we were in 100-degree weather.
It was so disgusting.
Brutal.
In your house.
And my car didn't charge because it didn't reboot throughout the night.
Yeah.
And so I ended up with zero, basically, mobility with my electric car. And I've lived in LA now we've been here in this area for 30-something years. And we've lived with rolling brownouts and rolling blackouts. We've lived with everything going off. We've lived with our refrigerator not having electricity. So
you show up later in the day and then your refrigerator's
everything in our freezer is spoiled. Everything in the refrigerator is ruined. And in this context, we have Gavin Newsom, who's our governor, saying that by 2035, every car in California that will be sold will be electric. We're going to go fully electric. And I'm listening to that. And so here's my dilemma.
What's your problem with that, though? I like it.
I know.
I don't like him. I like it, though.
Okay.
I like the rule.
I know, but this is what keeps driving me to be more of a conservative thinker.
How so?
I don't disagree with the idea. I just think there's no intelligence around the process of implementation. No struggling or wrestling with the reality at all. It's so easy to go, everything's going to be electric by 2035. You can't even find enough electricity to keep my refrigerator going.
Yeah.
Right. And you're gonna have every car in California electric. And on top of that, I do have an electric car. I'm one of the first people in the world that went electric. So I am an early adopter in this entire environmental journey to get rid of fossil fuels. And you can't even give me enough electricity to keep my car charged. And I'm not even competing with everyone. Like I'm in a very, very small minority of people who actually have electric vehicles. And there's not enough to go around. And there's not enough charging stations either.
No. And that's the thing about this that gets me is the amazing backlash it got. Like immediately. Like he posted about it and all of the news sites posted about it in California. And then it was like, yeah, but it's 112 degrees and our electricity's off. And my car won't start. Yeah. So how do you expect me to do anything? Go to work, go to the hospital.
This is why it's so hard for me to trust political thinking, because I think that he's just posturing himself to run for president. And because there's no way.
He's going to run for president?
I feel like certain he's going to run for president.
If he runs for president, unfortunately, anyone with the last name Trump is going to win. That man will lose.
When I see people making quote ideological moves, like when he starts speaking against DeSantis, when he starts becoming a national voice against conservative governors, I realize, he wants to run for president. So he's trying to create a national platform. When he says every vehicle is going to become electric by 2035, I'm like, that man is super intelligent. I don't believe he's stupid. He has to know that's impossible. And then I get nervous. I'm going, wait a minute, are we going to become a part of the Borg? I mean, I'm looking over there at Austin and Brooke. You're you guys and Aaron are the younger generation. Do you like the idea that the government can hit a button and turn off every one of your vehicles and stop you from driving if they decide today no one's allowed to travel?
Elon Musk would never do that. Elon Musk wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but if you can't get power.
Yeah, the government can turn off all power.
We're going solar. Everything's going solar.
Cars are not going solar.
No, but I do think at some point there will be a regenerative, like the same way there's regenerative braking, there's going to be regenerative driving.
But it's not. I've tried regenerative driving and it makes you want to puke. But I'm
saying I think that they're going to end up being able to like infuse like solar cells into like the bodies of the cars, and you're able to like generate
the only way California can go electric is by becoming nuclear. And you cannot be against nuclear and be for going all electric. It is impossible.
So what's
with our present technology?
Okay, what's your big? Okay, so your problem is,
I get tired of politicians giving us these pictures of what the future is going to look like without any strategy to get there. I feel like people are so naive that the moment someone says something, they go, "Yes, I'm all for all electric." Well, I am too. I'd like electricity all the time, not just all electric vehicles. I like an all electric refrigerator, all electric air conditioning. I'm all for that.
No.
Solve that problem in California first.
Okay.
Why not just reduce the amount that we drive?
Well, Brooke, that's easy to say if you have the power to choose where you work, where you create your company. But a lot of people have to take jobs and can't afford to live near that job.
Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying is why not focus our energy on building affordable housing?
Brooke, you haven't been listening. There's no energy.
There's
rolling blackouts.
I'm sorry.
You haven't been listening.
I don't have any energy for work today. I'm in a rolling blackout.
I'm in a brownout. I'm in a
rolling blackout day. That's a new HR thing.
Well, Brooke, I think there are solutions, but there are none in place and none in play. And so when you just say the end game, I'm going to do this, and you don't actually have a plan, I think you're being disingenuous. Speaking of that, it's where my natural transition.
So let's copy and paste that logic to your logic about immigration.
Yeah.
You think Teddy DeSantis, is that his name? Teddy DeSantis? Ron DeSantis?
Ron DeSantis, yeah.
Who's Teddy DeSantis?
I don't know.
I just made him up. Ron DeSantis, my man, who's flying immigrants over to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
That cannot be a cheap flight. That's
incredible waste of money.
From San Antonio to Massachusetts.
Do you think he has a plan with that? Or are you trying to make a statement?
No, those are just pure political statements.
Okay. So so what you're saying is Gavin Newsom is creating a statement, a political statement.
No,
he has no plan.
He's trying to convince people he's going to create the future that they want.
Yeah.
Without any capacity to do it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to and I haven't talked about this, even though I've thought about it for the last month, the Inflation Reduction Act. Like the moment I heard about the Inflation Reduction Act.
We're 54 minutes in.
I know. Just
so hold on. No. I think I'm just gonna, what? You've talked for 50 minutes.
Yes, I know.
Would you like to put this in the Patreon?
Oh wow. Yes. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. So we finished with Teddy DeSantis.
Can we keep his noise though?
Okay. What I want to talk about in Patreon isn't as much the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, no one's buying the Patreon if
no.
That's what it's about.
Well, that's a part of it too, though. But it's about the use of logic to create false connections of reality.
Okay.
And one of the early things you study in philosophy is
tease it, don't tell it.
Okay.
Ooh.
Is how you use language to create false views of reality. And so if you use the right language, you can actually do the opposite thing.
Okay. And with that, we are wrapping this episode up. And if you want to continue this episode, you can go check out our Patreon.
All right. I thought we were only going to do 30 minutes for free.
I don't know. We're gonna link the Patreon in the bio everywhere you're listening. It's also gonna probably be on our website, and it'll be on the IG. It'll be on the link tree in the IG. So you just click the link in the bio, and you can click the Patreon. You can sign up. You can sub. It's a monthly thing. We are excited to have created it, and we're excited to see where it goes. And we're going to create some extra content right now for it, so go check it out. But before you do, rate and review this podcast on iTunes and Spotify. And you can like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. That thing's almost up to 4K now. Like 396. It's not bad.
That's awesome.
We started from the bottom.
So good.
When Mosaic kicked us off theirs. Okay. See you guys next week.
All right. Take care.